Welcome back to another installment of Julian's Random Projects. I promised folks a rundown of some of the vehicles that I bought recently and like the budget for those and what they cost and how much went into fixing them, that kind of thing. So here it is. Let's see. Months ago, I guess maybe even a year ago now, I had the MG Midget that some of you saw in the background. I had two videos planned for that. One was about reducing some of the smoke. I did a tune-up on it, and then after I did a tune-up and replaced the points, it had mechanical points. I replaced them with electronic, which made it like start up first time, even with bad timing. And so I made some adjustments and got it, spinning like a top and humming along. Beautiful car, a little motor that was in there, and I knew this, but I just wasn't paying attention. And sometimes with some of these older engines, if they're running and they're not smoking and they're doing okay, don't fuck with them. Like, don't. For that one, I did like a full engine flush with like a treatment that was supposed to flush the engine of old sludge and things like that, and then put all new. I did new spark plugs, a full new distributor, cap and rotor, spark plug wires, and then tuned the carburetor on it. And after I did all that, it smoked. So I think if I'd skipped the flushing of things, I probably wouldn't have like blown out some gummed up thing that was keeping it from smoking. Anyways, and then I used a product called, let me go see if I find it. Here we go. CD2 was what it was called. I kept the empty bottle so I wouldn't forget what it was called. This thing worked a treat, so gets a thumbs up from me. Okay, in the trash. So the Midget I bought for $5,300. I probably could have gotten it for less, and the reason I think that is because the guy wanted like $8,000 for it or something, and it was not worth that. I mean, in closer to mint condition, it would have been worth that, but it had little niggling issues like the trunk latch was like the piece that it actually latches and grabs in was welded in, and someone did a really shitty job. Like, it was all gummed up and weird looking. It just made me think that like a shade tree mechanic went at it, and on the spot I gotta think, what else has that mechanic done to cut corners, or just did his best try but didn't actually have the skills to do it. And that made me nervous, and so I told the guys, like, look, I'll give you like $5,000 or something, $5,300, whatever it was. And I expected him to kind of meet in the middle, and he took it like that, like, right, it said totally fine, cool, I'll take it. And I was like, damn it. So when someone's that quick to, even if they want to like play the haggling game, he should have like him and hawed and then came in at that. But because he was so quick to it, it made me think that his real number was probably somewhere around $4,000. Just something to think about if you're buying a car. After putting realistically like $400 into that car, so now all told, it's something like that for me. I ended up selling it for $7,800. So all told, about exactly $2,100 of profit on that one. Fun, cute little red roadster from the 60s. Had a blast. I ended up putting it into a car show and did well. It wasn't concourse or anything like that. It was just like a normal run around car. The guy I bought it from tried to do a restoration and didn't complete it, but I went ahead and completed it with like upgrading all the incandescent bulbs to LED and stuff. So that takes it into another category of like being quote unquote modified. And so for car shows and things, it's not original. It's not, as an example, I switched over to electronic points and a number of other things, which makes it not original, but that's fine. I don't care. I'd rather have it start on me first time than to be original. Next up was the Boxster S. So the Boxster S I bought because like I said before in the previous video, I planned on converting that to electric. Things changed. I determined that I hadn't actually like had the full thought to make that car as adequate as it was in performance as it was stock. Like, I had this original budget of mine was like like $5,000 or $6,000 to like put together the EV parts that I was missing to make an electric car. and that didn't account for the performance of the donor car, and so it would have been like barely putting around and embarrassing. So I scrapped that. That car I paid $3,000 for, and the reason it's $3,000 was because when I showed up, it wouldn't start. I got it to turn over after buying it by replacing a fuse. Thank you, YouTube.
I'll be damned. So was it dirty or something?
No, it's blown completely.
Because I was coming out here starting it every month, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
Let it run for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden it wouldn't do nothing.
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
And so it would crank, and it started. It was awesome. And then I found out that there was oil in the water, but not water in the oil. So in total, I probably spent about $1,500 chasing down the gremlins in the Boxster S and purging everything, replacing the water pump, which you saw a video on earlier, and getting rid of all the gunk and cleaning it out. But after all that was done, it was a great little run around, and I was really surprised at the performance of the Boxster S. I hadn't driven one before, so I had no idea. It's definitely not a hairdresser's car. It's a proper, well-balanced sports car, and I really enjoyed it. So all in on that car, I was looking at $4,500. And so these are cheap cars. I mean, I had a ton of fun with this one. I had a ton of fun with this guy, and worst case here, I was at $5,700 to have that kind of fun, and here I'm at $4,500 to have that kind of fun. And this car looked sharp, really sharp. It polished up beautifully. And while I was driving this one, I had a friend at work who approached me and said, like, "Oh, hey, I heard you're messing around with a Boxster, and you're doing an EV thing, and I've got an old Boxster in my driveway, and it's basically kaput. It's just sitting there. It doesn't drive, and it starts randomly, and the mechanic's telling me it's like this god awful mechanics bill. So actually something close to the tune of like $8,000, which on Craigslist, a beautiful example of a Boxster, not the Boxster S, but a Boxster, no S. They're on the high end, they're going for like $8,000, so to get a bill, an estimate from your mechanic to say, to fix this random starting issue or not starting at all issue, you need a new computer and new key fobs and, like another round of diagnostics and stuff. It's $8,000. And the guy just said, screw it. That's the price of the car. So when I looked at it, again, solid car, just had been sitting in his driveway, collecting rainwater because the top had a slit in it, and he had a hard top that came with it. And had he put the hard top, I wouldn't have been dealing with all the water issues, but that's another story. So with the water damage and the fact that it didn't start and I had to get it towed away, we landed at $1,000. And to be honest, the dude was super, super friendly, and had a great time talking to him. At one point, he was even saying, like, "I'll give it to you for $500." And I said, no, like I'm confident that the DMV is going to really wonder how a 2000 Boxster was $500. You know what I mean? Like the wheels alone are close to that, and it came with a top. The top I looked up on Craigslist at the time. It was Craigslist and eBay. A hard top for that car was going for about $2,000. So it's worth it all day. I mean, even if I got into it and I said, "Oh my God, the mechanic was right. It was $8,000. I can't fix this thing, and I'm way in over my head." Then it is donate that thing to charity, right? Get the tax write-off, and then sell the hard top on eBay or Craigslist and get $2,000, and I'm done. I've doubled my money, right? So that was my plan with that one. That's why I was confident with that. I guess so. It was so $1,000 plus the tow of $200. And then I ended up fixing it after some troubleshooting and reading a forum online, and also posted a video on my channel. I think it was like another, I want to say like, let's just say $130 for a crank position sensor for that guy, right? So let's see, it's $1,330, right? 33. Minus all of the change that I found in the car. Because like I said, it was water damage, so I had to pull that stuff out. So we're looking at like, I don't know, $12, $13, something like that. So you take the 1317, and that one I ended up selling for $4,700. So that's a profit of $3,383. So you can start to see that the buying low and selling high and like tinkering with cars, like I understand some people call it flipping and that kind of thing, but I don't ever consider myself somebody that's doing this to like make a profit. Like I'm not like feeding my kids with this profit or paying rent with it and shit like that. I'm typically rolling that into the next deal, right? That's what I'm typically doing. So and then it's not just that profit; it's the actualized $4,700. So in this case, plus the 45, you end up being able to pick up the next deal that's closer to 15 or 17 or something like that. You actually probably, like when I see 17 in my what I would call my car replacement fund or like the car hobby fund, I actually think of that mentally as something closer to like 10 or 15. And what that does is as I start looking for cars that are in the 10 or 15 range, then it gives me the $7,000 or the $2,000 to repair that or bring it back up to roadworthiness or get it tagged and licensed and insured and that kind of stuff. So that's the other thing I'm skipping over here is like niggling things like the 10% that California has me paying for taxes on it when you register a car or the insurance and that kind of stuff. But like that changes so many places, so I'm skipping past that. But in general, you get the idea. We're buying low and selling high as a part of a hobby here, just so that it pays for itself and keeps the wife happy. You get the idea. But I think that if you're watching this and you haven't bought your first car or you're interested in messing around with this stuff as like a hobby, I want you to know that like there's some awesome deals out there. If you're willing to do a little bit of research, I mean, in that one case, like I literally checked a forum and said, 2000 Porsche Boxster S doesn't start, won't turn over. Like I just did some keywords and something popped up and they said, check this fuse. And like, yeah, one of the things I typically do is go through and check the entire fuse box. But for that thing to hone in on exactly which fuse number, I went right to that one first, obviously. And sure as shit, it was popped. And if you can get something cheap enough, then have it be a win-win situation where like no matter what happens, you can always get out of that car without spending another dime on it and still break even, so that it doesn't hurt you and you can roll that into the next deal. And then also, if you're a college student and you're thinking about buying like your first car, don't go out and buy a brand new car. They're like, I looked it up just before this, and the average new car cost is $33,600. That's average, which means there's probably a few that are a little bit less, and there's quite a few that are a lot more. But that's what people are paying for a brand new car. So like a 2017 model. And of course, a lot of college students or young people, they don't have $33,000. And so what do? They get payments, right? And I don't know, I'm not gonna sit here and do math, but let's say payments on something like this is like $500 a month. At $500 a month, okay, great. You've got a newish car and like it smells nice, which is actually just plastic outgassing, whatever. And you please yourself and chicks dig it, whatever. But you're deeply in debt. You're in debt to the tune of $33,600. And if you run that out, you'll end up paying for this car at $500 a month all the way out from late 2016 now to late 2022. That's a long time, dude. That's like 6 years what a lot of people are doing right now. They're getting these crazy 72-month car payments and stuff. Even if you get something, I know there's people that are getting like 1% interest and at least weird things and stuff like that, but a lot of folks are paying closer to 9 and 10% interest on a car loan. And so for something like that, you end up paying closer to $44,000 for that car. So the delta on that's $11,000. So it ends up being a really, really expensive car. And then at the end of 6 years, I mean, your car's looking all old and busted anyways, right? So my suggestion is to just screw all that stuff. Take the $500 you would have spent anyhow, right? Maybe you get crazy and you get stretched out to like 600 or 700, whatever. Like, keep math simple because obviously I can't add. you take your $500, right? And instead of getting a brand new car and having to go through all that paperwork and deal with the dealership and shit like that, you stack that up for 2 months and you buy yourself a $1,000 car and you drive that for like 10 months. This is what I'm describing here is like the Dave Ramsey plan for getting into cars and paying cash for cars. It's what I do. So at the end of 10 months, if you took your $500 that you were saving, you bought a $1,000 car, right? And then for another 10 months, you gave yourself $500. You can put it in a fucking jar, you can put it underneath your bed, I don't care. And you end up with $5,000. The car you bought at $1,000, it is highly likely that you will be able to sell that car for exactly what you paid for it. And if you saw in the examples I gave before, where I'm buying these cars low because they need a little bit of elbow grease, they need just some detail work that you can do for fun. It's a great way to get to know a car is by cleaning it completely and buffing it and waxing it and stuff. In my experience, every time I buy like $1,000 car, I end up selling it for $2,000 to $3,000. But let's just keep math really simple. So now you're looking at a $6,000. If you sell that same car for $1,000, you can add it to your $5,000 that you've saved. And now you go back on Craigslist and you buy yourself a $6,000 car, right? Like this is a decent car at $6,000. There's a lot of cool cars. The cars that I mentioned earlier about, the Boxster S, that's, super cute. MG Midget, all of those cars were less than $6,000. And shit, some of them came with money, right? Then you drive your now newer car, right? Like at $6,000, you're looking at cars that are like probably 5 or 6 years old, right? But that's where you were in the other scenario. At the end of 6 years, you had a deeply depreciated car that was probably worth half of what you paid for it in like the first year or two. But then you still had to keep paying payments on it, right? So by the time your payments are done, your car's looking closer to being worth this much anyways, right? So just start there and don't deal with the banks and stuff. So you do this, you drive this car for another 10 months. And that, while you're still giving yourself $500 a month, right? You put it in a cookie jar or something like that, or a mason jar, or whatever. So that's another $5,000. And now you're rolling into an $11,000 car. Cars in the $6,000 area, like, early 2000s and stuff like that, you're talking about like, full on BMWs and Jaguars and well-built Hondas. So like fancy, but you know what I mean? Like a reliable car, Toyotas. And that could be sedans, SUVs, whatever. Like there are a ton of cool cars in the $6,000 range. But now we're talking about just an amount of 20 months. That's less than 2 years, right? And you're now going to go back to Craigslist. You're going to go back to eBay, wherever you're getting your cars from. Hell, even at $11,000, you can start to kind of walk onto a lot. I wouldn't advise it. But you can start really stepping up in car. And at $11,000, I'm telling you guys, I've bought cars that were only 2 years, maybe 3 years old, still smelled new, have, sat nav and Bluetooth and, power everything. They're in the $10,000 to $15,000 range, right? And so now you're buying a car that this year we're talking about 2013 model cars are sitting right here at $11,000, and you don't owe anybody anything. And worst case is somewhere between here and here, or maybe even the next 10 months, while you're saving up to roll into then a $16,000 car. It starts to get kind of crazy. It gets really, really fun. But between here and here, like if you break your leg or your fucking kid needs braces or something like that, what are you sitting on? You're sitting on a paid for car and nearly $5,000 in just straight up cash. I promise you can self-insure through a broken leg or, a dental work, like some sort of like emergency that happens with the family. This is what you're dealing with. Now you've changed, you're swinging this pendulum the other way, where instead of owing somebody a bunch of money, you're coming closer to zero, and then you've actually got money yourself, right? And so you then have the choice. And a lot of times, like where I'm at now, like every time I go to spend this next, $5,000 that I've saved, I'm looking at this car and I'm like, this car's only like 2-3 years old. and it's doing great. I really like it. I'm going to drive it for another year. And then that ends up being yet another 5K that I get to add into the pot, and it just starts growing and growing and growing. And what you'd start doing then, what I'd advise you to do, is to move that stuff into a mutual fund. More about that later. You guys can Google around, figure out what a mutual fund is. There's a lot of different stocks mutually funded. You get the idea. It's not rocket science. And these things are often giving like 10%, 10 to 12%. Sometimes, obviously, that's average. So sometimes it's like less, sometimes it's a little bit more. But on average, you're looking at 10 to 12%. And so that money starts to grow and grow and grow while you're driving around in the car. And then when a transmission goes out, you need brakes or something like that, you just pull it from the car replacement fund. You don't go back and go deeper into debt or take it into the dealership and get completely screwed on price. You're driving a used car. It's not. It probably didn't come with a warranty. So actually, when you start getting into this area, you start getting stuff that has like factory warranties. But that's another discussion. But you now have cash, and you're doing this on your own, and it's really empowering. And I hope more people can see this kind of stuff and wrap their minds around it. So it's really simple math, but the challenging part is by not giving into that car fever, not wanting to go and get something that's brand new just because your friends are getting something new or whatever, right? Like find the fun in the $1,000 cars, or like find something that you thought was cool in high school and go look it up on Craigslist. You're gonna find out that thing's like $3,000 for like a cherry version of whatever it was you were into, and go buy it. Have some fun for like 10 months. How hard is that? You just like you drive for a little while, you're done. And here we're down in this area here where we're trying to roll into like a $16,000 car. It's only been 30 months. And the example we gave earlier that was like a typical car loan, those are running for like 72 months. And so you're not even halfway through the 72 months, and you're already paying cash for $16,000 cars, right? And so the big magic trick, and the thing that Dave Ramsey teaches, is that the money that you've saved, the delta, because like once you get down into here, you've got a really reliable car. You take that extra $500 a month, you keep dumping it into your mutual fund, and then it just grows and grows and grows. And next thing you know, like at the end of the 72 months that you would have had before, you end up looking up and there's something that's more like 20K is sitting in a bank somewhere, like a mutual fund, and you can pull from that, or you can just let it sit there and grow. You keep adding to it. I mean, like there's a lot of times you end up like cash roll, like bankrolling, or what's it called, cash flowing the car replacements at that point. And this thing just grows and grows and grows. And as it grows, it starts turning like 30, 40 grand. Like you just look up and it's enough to go buy a Tesla for cash. I mean, it gets crazy it's really just the power of compounding interest, which, you can Google around for that. This is what I do. It keeps me out of debt. It keeps me having fun with cars. I get to try, different brands. I've never owned a Porsche. I never even thought to own a Porsche or Porsche, depending on who you are, what part of the pond, which side of the pond you're on. And it wasn't something that I thought I would get into. But when they're that cheap, when someone offers you one for $1,000, that's the other thing. It's like when you're down here and you got the 20K, sitting in the bank, the 16K, and you're about to step into the next car. You've got this flexibility. You have like this liquid cash where when a deal comes up, you can jump on it, right? If you're still just drowning in $500 a month car payments, and you're trying to make rent, and you're trying to keep food on the table and shit, and somebody comes in and says, hey, it's a great deal on Craigslist right now. It's a car for $3,000. It typically goes for $5,000, but the guy's moving. He wants to move it. He wants to sell it quick. You don't have $3,000 to go get that car, right? Being able to be nimble, to show up and literally like pay cash for a car, like lay down $100 bills. All right, that's my advice. Like if I give you another piece of advice, like when you go to do these deals, one, you got to trust people. Don't be scared that carrying cash, you're gonna get mugged or whatever, unless you live in a town that like a mugging is highly likely. But take cash, right? When you go and you show up to pay $7,000 for a car, and to the person that's selling it to you, they did the whole car payment plan, so it's highly likely. And so they've been paying on it for a while. They're kind of annoyed with it. It just seems like this hassle to them, and now they've got it finally paid off, and they're looking to unload it. So they went on Kelley Blue Book, or the internet to see what it was worth, and that's where you start. When they're asking for $7,000 on their Kelley Blue Book for the car, and you look it over, and especially at $7,000, you can also like ask them if you can run it down to your mechanic and maybe like leave a small deposit or something like that, or drop a little contract that says, I'm going to take this to my mechanic and see what they say about it. And you come back and the mechanic says, yeah, like this $7,000 car, to get it roadworthy and to have all of its normal maintenance done, you're looking at, a $2,000 maintenance bill, and have them print that out. It'll probably cost you about $100 to do that. But you say, thanks for the bill of health, and please mark down anything that you think this car needs, everything from wiper blades to wheel alignments and tune-ups and that kind of thing. If you'll print out a list, if I buy this car, I will try and come back and get as much of this stuff done on the list as possible, right? And that's so that's negative $2,000. But that's a negotiating technique. You take this bill back to the seller and say, great. I think that when you went on Kelley Blue Book and you found the car was worth $7,000, that's awesome. That's a car that is at good quality and ready to go, and is roadworthy. This, my mechanic says that we're looking at another $2,000 to make it that way. So the delta on that is $5,000. So realistically, this car's worth $5,000 plus the maintenance gets you back up to Kelley Blue Book price. I'm willing to pay $5,000, right? And that's kind of where your negotiation starts. Now, I'm telling you, if you take $100 bills with you and you start counting out $5,000, or you reach in your back, you got to take $7,000 with you. Okay, don't be a dick, because you might show up and it's cherry, doesn't need anything. The guy comes back and says, like, the only thing wrong with it is the wiper blades. And you're talking about a few bucks. So take $7,000 with you, and then you offer them $5,000. They're going to see that you brought the other $2,000, so they knew you were serious about buying the car, right? You offer them the $5,000. If you physically hand somebody $5,000 in $100 bills as you're discussing like the things, the dents and the dings that are in the car, and how the carpet needs shampooing and stuff, and they're holding it, and you go, I came here ready to pay $7,000. I think the car's worth $5,000. Do we have a deal or not? If they say no, awesome. Just reach your hand out to motion to get the $5,000 back. I've never had somebody hand that money back to me. Never. I don't know, it's something in like the human psyche or what, they can't part with it. I'm telling you, most people have never held $5,000 in their hands, and it just breaks their little brains. And so, done. That's it. The deal is done. You bought that car for $5,000. So I hope you guys learned something. Please leave in the comments if you think I've missed something. I'm sure I have. It's like I said, for me, it's a hobby. It's a hobby that hell. I also do this like for my personal cars, like all the other stuff that you guys have seen on the channel. I've been debt free for like 10 years, and I have not had a car payment in all that time. I always do my deals in cash, and always upgrading in car each time I do it. And so if you can gain anything from this, at least just don't get a car payment. God, having these car payments here just suck the life out of you, man. So avoid that at all costs. Hell, even if you bought a $500 car, you'd be doing better. And feel free to share some of the cars that you guys are buying in the $500 and $1,000 range. I love to see them. I'm always surprised at the kind of fun cars that you guys can get. Some keywords if you want, if I could share for you. Like if you're looking for like a straight up commuter car that's in the $1,000 range, I search for stuff like faded, meaning the paint. Right? When someone's honest and says like, yeah, this car's faded, meaning it probably runs great. It just got left out in the sun or whatever, right? Or classic ones, mechanic special. Look for the word mechanic. If you also, smog. If your area has smog testing, search smog. You're gonna get a lot of like past smog, ready for smog, that kind of thing. But like you also get these little diamonds in the rough words like needs smog, won't pass smog, that kind of thing. I'll search for the word MPG if I'm trying to get a commuter car, or moving. Sorry, that's the last one. Moving. People that are motivated to sell, man, you get a deal. Some people just damn near give you the car. Moving. People that are going out of state, they've joined the military, whatever, they've got to go, and they're not taking that car with them. They will be motivated to sell that thing. So, yeah, have fun. Hope you guys learned something. If you want to find out more stuff like this or see some of the cool projects and things that I'm working on, feel free to subscribe, and we'll catch you later.